What's up, guys? Back with another Bible study. Still in the book of Revelation. Revelation 10. Revelation 10 is a short chapter, but there's a lot of stuff in here. A lot that I didn't really see before until I started doing this video. So, let's break it down. I saw another strong angel coming down out of heaven, clothed with a cloud, and the rainbow was upon his head. And his face was like the sun, and his feet like pillars of fire. Alright, first off, this rainbow says the rainbow was upon his head. Now let's see what that's talking about. And another detail, so the rainbow was upon his head, and strong angel coming down out of heaven. So he was coming down out of heaven with a rainbow upon his head. In Revelation 4 we see, John said, "Immediately I was in the spirit, and behold, a throne was standing in heaven, and one sitting on the throne. And he who was sitting was like a jasper stone, and a sardius in appearance. And there was a rainbow around the throne, like an emerald in appearance." So there's a rainbow around the throne of God. We see it also here in Ezekiel 1. Now above the expanse that was over their heads, there was something resembling a throne, like lapis lazuli in appearance. And on that which resembled a throne high up was a figure with the appearance of a man. That's Jesus. Then I noticed from the appearance of his loins and upward was something like glowing metal that looked like fire all around within it. And from the appearance of his loins downward, I saw something like fire. And there was a radiance around him, as the appearance of the rainbow in the clouds on a rainy day. So was the appearance of the surrounding radiance. Such was the appearance of the likeness of the glory of the Lord. Here's a artist's rendition of what we're described, what we're given in Scripture. We have the throne of God here, and with the four living creatures which carry the throne of God and surround the throne of God. The 24 elders sitting around, and the rainbow we see in chapter 1. Oh no, maybe it's not in chapter 1. But it said rainbow around the throne like an emerald. That's that green, that's the emerald. So the rainbow around the throne is what is upon the head of the angel here. The angel is coming down out of heaven with the throne of God over top of him. So this is when Jesus is coming on the clouds. And we also see here in 1 Thessalonians 4:16 through 18, or 16. "For the Lord himself will descend from heaven with a shout, and with the voice of the Archangel, and with the trumpet of God. And the dead in Christ will rise first. Then we who are alive and remain will be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air." So when Jesus comes down on the cloud, he comes down with a shout. It says with the voice of the Archangel and with the trumpet of God. And if we keep reading here in chapter 10, And he had in his hand a little book which was open. He placed his right foot on the sea and his left on the land, and he cried out with a loud voice, as when a lion roars. So there's the voice of the archangel, and the only angel listed as an archangel in scripture is Michael, the angel Michael. So it appears that's who it is who descends with a shout. With the voice of the archangel. And we learn that we see that right here. And he cried out with a loud voice as when a lion roars. So this is Michael coming down. This is Michael coming down with King Jesus over top of him. The rainbow is upon his head. Alright, so there's so much in here. It says he had a little book in his hand which was open. Now what is that book? That book is the same thing we see in chapter 5. I saw on the right hand of him who sat on the throne a book written inside and on the back, sealed up with 7 seals. And I saw a strong angel proclaiming with a loud voice, "Who is worthy to open the book and to break its seals?" And no one in heaven or on earth or under the earth was able to open the book or look into it. Then I began to weep greatly because no one was found worthy to open the book or look into it. And one of the elders said to me, "Stop weeping, behold, the lion that is from the tribe of Judah, King Yeshua, the root of David, has overcome so as to open the book and its 7 seals." So that's the book that the angel, which is Michael the archangel, that's the book that he has in his hand right here. And we also see this book in a few other places, and we'll get back to it in a minute. But the picture we see here, we see Michael the archangel coming down out of heaven with Yeshua, Jesus Christ, over top of him. It says the rainbow is upon his head. So Jesus is over top of him, also coming in the clouds, which we see right here in Psalm 18. He bowed the heavens also and came down with thick darkness under his feet. He rode upon a cherub and flew. These are the cherubs. And he sped upon the wings of the wind. He made darkness his hiding place, his canopy around him. Darkness of waters, thick clouds of the skies. From the brightness before him passed his thick clouds, hailstones and coals of fire. The Lord also thundered in the heavens, and the Most High uttered his voice. So his voice we learn here in Psalms 18, as well as here in Job. Listen closely to the thunder of his voice. So the voice of God thunders. And we also know from right here, from Revelation chapter 1, that the voice of God is also like a trumpet. I was in the Spirit and on the Lord's day, and I heard behind me a loud voice like the sound of a trumpet. And that's what we see here, the voice of God. We have the voice of the Archangel and the voice of God, which is the trumpet here. And he cried out with a loud voice as when a lion roars. And when he had cried out, the 7 peals of thunder uttered their voices. What's the 7 peals of thunder? That's the voice of God. The thunder is his voice. When the 7 peals of thunder had spoken, I was about to write. And I heard a voice from heaven saying, "Seal up the things which the 7 peals of thunder have spoken, and do not write them." Now I believe God showed me what these 7 peals of thunder are, and I'm going to get to that here in a minute. But we also see here in Job and also in Psalm 29. I'll go to that first, because the thunder is his voice, and so is the trumpet. The voice of the Lord is upon the waters. The God of glory thunders. Says 1. The voice of the Lord. The Lord is over many waters. The voice of the Lord is powerful. 2. The voice of the Lord is majestic. 3. The voice of the Lord breaks the cedars. Yes, the Lord breaks in pieces the cedars of Lebanon. He makes Lebanon skip like a calf. 4. And Syrian like a wild ox. The voice of the Lord hews out flames of fire. 5. The voice of the Lord shakes the wilderness. 6. The Lord shakes the wilderness of Kadesh. And here's 7. The voice of the Lord makes the deer to calve and strips the forest bare. And in his temple, everything says glory. So we have 7 thunders here. And we also see here in Job 37, listen closely to the thunder of his voice. 1. And the rumbling that goes out of his mouth. 2. Under the whole heaven he lets it loose, and his lightning to the ends of the earth. 3. After it a voice roars. 4. He thunders with his majestic voice. 5. And he does not restrain the lightnings when his voice is heard. 6. God thunders with his voice wondrously, doing great things which we cannot comprehend. 6. For the snow, and here's 7. For the snow, he says, fall on the earth, and to the downpour and the rain, be strong. And that's where the speaking stops. That's 7, and that's where the speaking stops. The rest of this, it says, he seals the hand of every man. There's no more speaking of his words, his voice, after that. But what God showed me when doing this video is a connection over here with Daniel 12. So we see here in chapter 10, Michael the Archangel, coming down. That's when Yeshua comes on the clouds. and we see the book is open. So this is right after, this is when the seals, this is right after the seals were open. And when the seals open, everything happens pretty much at once. He placed his right foot on the sea and his left on the land. And he cried out with a loud voice as when a lion roars. And when he had cried out, the 7 peals of thunder uttered their voices. When the 7 peals of thunder had spoken, I was about to write. And I heard a voice from heaven saying, seal up the things which the 7 peals of thunder have spoken, and do not write them. Then the angel whom I saw standing on the sea and on the land, I'm going to stop right there. We know this is Michael, and we see here in chapter 10 he's standing on the land and the sea. And Daniel chapter 12 says, now at that time, Michael, the great prince who stands guard over the sons of your people, will arise, or depending on translation, stand up. That's when he stands up. And that's what we see right here in Revelation chapter 10. He stands up, having 1 foot on the sea and 1 foot on the earth. And there will be a time of distress, such as never occurred since there was a nation until that time. And at that time, your people, everyone who is found written in the book, will be rescued. Many of those who sleep in the dust of the ground will awake, these to everlasting life, but the others to disgrace and everlasting contempt. Those who have insight will shine brightly like the expanse of heaven, and those who lead the many to righteousness like the stars forever and ever. But as for you, Daniel, conceal these words and seal up the book until the end of time. Many will go back and forth, and knowledge will increase. Now that's the same thing we just saw here. When the 7 peals of thunder had spoken, I was about to write, and I heard a voice from heaven saying, seal up the things which the 7 peals of thunder have spoken, and do not write them. Daniel 12. But as for you, Daniel, conceal these words, and that's the key right there. And then it says, and seal up the book until the end of time. But the key is, it says, as for you, Daniel, conceal these words. What words? The words that were just spoken. That's what he was told to conceal, along with the book. He said, conceal these words and seal up the book. These words, he's speaking of the words that he had just spoken right here, or the words he had just written right here. And seal up Revelation 10. When the 7 peals of thunder had spoken, I was about to write, and I heard a voice from heaven saying, seal up the things which the 7 peals of thunder had spoken. Now here in Daniel chapter 12, this is God that is speaking to Daniel. And his voice is thunder, the 7 thunders. It said, seal up the things which the 7 peals of thunder had spoken, and do not write them. But as for you, Daniel, conceal these words. Now, how many phrases do we have here? Now at that time, I believe this is the 7 peals of thunder. I believe this is what we see here in Revelation chapter 10. When the 7 peals of thunder had spoken, I was about to write. I believe what the 7 peals of thunder spoke, we get here in Daniel chapter 10, or Daniel chapter 12. Number 1. Now at that time, Michael, the great prince who stands guard over the sons of your people, will arise. Number 2. And there will be a time of distress, such as never occurred since there was a nation until that time. Number 3. And at that time, your people, everyone who is found written in the book, will be rescued. That's number 3. Number 4. Many of those who sleep in the dust of the ground will awake. Number 5. These to everlasting life. Number 6. But the others to disgrace and everlasting contempt. And number 7. Those who have insight will shine brightly like the brightness of the expanse of heaven. And those who lead many to righteousness like the stars forever and ever. And I may have mixed these up, but there's 7 in here. I believe this is the 7 thunders, which is referenced here in Revelation chapter 10. And I believe, as we see right here, now at that time Michael, the great prince who stands guard over the sons of your people, will arise. I believe that's when what we see here. Then the angel who I saw standing on the sea and on the land lifted up his right hand to heaven and swore by him who lives forever and ever, who created heaven and the things in it, and the earth and the things in it, and the sea and the things in it. So the angel, this is Michael still, he lifted up his hand to heaven and swore that there will be delay no longer. And if we go over here, I believe that's what we see here in Matthew 25. I believe this is Michael. It says, but at midnight there was a shout, behold, the bridegroom come out to meet him. No more delay. Also right here in Revelation 14. I believe this is Michael. And I'll show you the other angels here in a second. But I believe this is Michael. It says, and I saw another angel flying in mid-heaven, having the eternal gospel to preach to those who live on the earth, and to every nation and tribe and tongue and people. And he said with a loud voice, fear God and give him glory, because the hour of his judgment has come. See, no more delay. The hour of his judgment has come. Worship him who made the heaven and the earth and the sea and the springs of water. Then we have these other angels as well. And another angel, a second one, saying, fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great, she who has made all the nations drink of the wine of the passion of her immorality. And that one, I believe the one who announces the fall of Babylon is the same one we see right here. Then I saw an angel standing in the sun, and he cried out with a loud voice, saying to all the birds which fly in mid-heaven, come, assemble for the great supper of God, that you may eat the flesh of kings, and the flesh of commanders, and the flesh of mighty men, and the flesh of horses, and those who sit on them, and the flesh of all men, both free and slaves, both small and great. Actually, the Babylon angel, I believe, is connected to this one that we see in chapter 8. Then I looked, and I heard an eagle flying in mid-heaven, saying with a loud voice, "Woe, woe, woe to those who dwell on the earth, because of the remaining blasts of the trumpet of the three angels who were about to sound." And I believe this is the same one. Well, we see this one right here in chapter 7. I saw another angel ascending from the rising of the sun, having the seal of the living God. And he cried out with a loud voice to the four angels who it was granted to harm the earth and the sea, saying, "Do not harm the earth or the sea or the trees until we have sealed the servants of our God on their foreheads." So the angel who has the seal of God, we also see that's the same. So the angel that has the seal of God, that's the one that caused the birds to assemble for the great supper of God. And we also see that same one here in Ezekiel. We see the sealing of the 144,000 here in Ezekiel 9. Then he cried out in my hearing with a loud voice, saying, "Draw near, O executioners of the city, each with his destroying weapon in his hand. Behold, 6 men came from the direction of the upper gate, which faces north, each with a shattering weapon in his hand." Which that's going to be 6 of the angels with the trumpets. And among them was a certain man, clothed in linen, with a writing case at his loins. And they went and stood beside the bronze altar, which that linen actually that linen connects that angel which we see here in Ezekiel. A certain man clothed in linen with a writing case at his loins. That's an angel. And that's the same angel we see here in Daniel 12. Then I, Daniel, looked, and behold, 2 others were standing, one on this side of the bank, on this bank of the river, and the other on that bank of the river. And one said to the man who was dressed in linen, who was above the waters of the river. See that one dressed in linen, that's the angel that we see here in Daniel chapter 10. I lifted my eyes and I looked, and behold, there was a certain man dressed in linen, whose waist was girded, and remember, this is the one who does the sealing of the 144,000, whose waist was girded with a belt of pure gold of Uphaz, and his body was like beryl, and his face had the appearance of lightning, and that his eyes were like flaming torches, and his arms and feet like the gleam of polished bronze, and the sound of his words like the sound of a tumult. It's the same angel who we see right here, gathering the birds for that great supper. And I'll just read a little bit more of Ezekiel 9. Then the glory of God of Israel went up from the cherub which had been on to the threshold of the temple, and he called out to the man clothed in linen, at whose loins was the writing case. And the Lord said to him, Go through the midst of the city, even through the midst of Jerusalem, and put a mark on the foreheads of the men who sigh and groan over the abominations which are being committed in his midst. That's the mark. That's the sign of the seal of God, which we see in chapter 7. But Michael is the one we see here in chapter 10. That's Michael the Archangel, the same one who calls out, Behold the bridegroom. But in the days of the voice of the seventh angel, when he is about to sound, then the mystery of God is finished, as he preached to his servants the prophets. And this is separate from the rest of this. God mixes it up and lets us try to figure it out, because this delay is the delay to his return. See, this is when he comes down. This is when Yeshua comes down with the angel underneath him. So that's at the beginning. But in the days of the voice of the seventh angel, when he is about to sound, then the mystery of God is finished, as he preached to his servants the prophets, which is bringing the two sticks together, which is bringing the Gentiles into Israel, making the Gentiles a part of Israel, meaning all believers in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are going to be one, and all going to be serving and worshiping Yeshua HaMashiach. And when the seventh angel sounds, that's when the temple in heaven opens back up, and those who died during the tribulation for the name of Jesus are going to be raised to complete the first resurrection, which completes the mystery of God, which is a little bit deeper, but I don't have time to go into it right now. Then the voice which I heard from heaven, I heard again speaking with me and saying, Go, take the book which is open in the hand of the angel who stands on the sea and on the land. And remember, the book is the same book from chapter 5. It's saying it's the scroll, the seven seal scroll. That's the book. So I went to the angel, telling him to give me the little book. And he said to me, Take it and eat it. It will make your stomach bitter, but your mouth will be sweet as honey. I took the little book out of the angel's hand and ate it, and in my mouth it was sweet as honey. And when I had eaten it, my stomach was made bitter. And we see that one other time, and I'll go to in a second. And they said to me, so after he ate the book, which we know is the scroll of judgment, the seven seal scroll. After he ate the book, it says, You must prophesy again concerning many peoples and nations and tongues and kings. And at the time when John wrote this, he was about 90 years old. Now, where else do we see this? The book. You see that in Ezekiel 2. Now you, son of man, listen to what I am speaking to you. Do not be rebellious like that rebellious house. Which is speaking of the house of Israel, which represents modern day Christians. Open your mouth and eat what I am giving you. Then I looked, and behold, a hand was extended to me, and lo, a scroll was in it. When he spread it out before me, so he was told to eat the scroll or the book, just like John. It says when he spread it out before me, it was written on the front and the back, and written on it were lamentations, mourning, and woe. We also see the scroll in the book of Zechariah. Chapter 5. Then I lifted up my eyes again and looked, and behold, there was a flying scroll. And he said to me, What do you see? And I answered, I see a flying scroll. Its length is 20 cubits, and its width 10 cubits. Then he said to me, This is the curse that is going forth over the face of the whole land. Surely everyone who steals will be purged away according to the writing on one side, and everyone who swears will be purged away according to the writing on the other side. The writing is the trumpet and bowl judgments, and the seals are only getting it started. But as we see, Ezekiel 2 was told to eat this scroll. And in the next chapter it says, Then he said to me, Son of man, eat what you find. Eat this scroll, and go, speak to the house of Israel. So I opened my mouth, and he fed me this scroll. He said to me, Son of man, feed your stomach and fill your body with this scroll which I am giving you. Then I ate it, and it was sweet as honey in my mouth. The same thing we see right here. And in my mouth it was sweet as honey. So John and Ezekiel were both told to eat this scroll, which is the 7-seal scroll of the book of Revelation. Both John and Ezekiel were told to eat the scroll. Ezekiel was told that he has to go prophesy to the house of Israel. And John is told, you must prophesy again concerning many peoples, nations, and tongues and kings. And the next chapter is about the two witnesses. So we'll get to that in the next chapter. But John and Ezekiel, I've said for a little while, I don't know 100%, but I believe John and Ezekiel could be the two witnesses. That's the end of Revelation chapter 10. Thanks for tuning in. I hope this was edifying. Praise Yahuwah. God bless you guys.